Hello, welcome to the Comic Book Commentary. I'm Bo Leidig, and this week we are diving back into the weird and wonderful pages of the Maxx. So let's zoom in and take a closer look. First published in April of 1993, we see here on the cover of Maxx number 2 that we get this cool image of Maxx and Julie Winters as their otherworld selves. Maxx having the big, I used to think it was hair. Turns out I was wrong. It's a headdress. And Julie as the Jungle Queen along with her pet leopard. And this is their appearance as they exist in the other world, which Maxx often refers to as the Australian outback. But it's quite different from the world that we live in. Story, pencils, inks, Sam Keith. Dialogue, Bill Messner, Lobes. Finishes, Jim Sinclair. Lettering, Mike Heisler, Kevin Cunningham. Color, Steve Oliff and Ollie Optics. Logo, Chance Wolfe. We see here on the first page of the book the prologue, which shows Julie in her New York apartment after nearly a week or two of, it's actually 3 weeks of dieting. She weighs herself to find out that she's actually gained 5 pounds. I feel your pain, Julie. And goes to open up the fridge to see if there's something she can snack on that potentially isn't going to make her gain any more weight. And is unfortunately for her greeted by an Is, most notably a dark Is. And not just one, but multiple, as they quickly grab her and haul her off to somewhere that she does not want to be. On the next page, we are transported back to the gas station where issue number 1 ended. As we can see, there is a shadow of Mr. Gone and the Maxx fighting on the top of the gas station, and a car is pulling up with a young man who's currently attending summer school and is really kind of just complaining about how nothing interesting ever happens to him and there's nothing weird that ever goes on in his life. It's just very blasé. I really like the touch that Sam did here where all of his thought bubbles are on loose leaf paper, kind of like driving home the idea that he's a teenager and he's in school. Also, check out this $1.19 for regular gas price. Not going to find that in 2022. He continues to go about his business and start pumping gas, sitting around, kind of thinking to himself. And then he notices a station wagon that pulls up with a bunch of identical grandmothers in it. And before he has time to get too distracted by that, he notices a black tarp starting to fall from the awning of the gas pump as it quickly starts to surround and black out the sun all around him, which doesn't really seem to cause him any more stress than if it wasn't there. He seems very lackadaisical about a weird, almost otherworldly black tarp just slowly enveloping the gas station. On the next page, he continues to investigate the situation, trying to figure out what's going on. He believes it may be some sort of automatic awning and starts to look for a switch, when suddenly the awning above the gas pump gives way under the weight of Maxx and Mr. Gone fighting as they crash through it, landing on the trunk of the young man's car, which he calls the hood in the dialogue. That's actually a bit of a continuity error, and you'll see on the next page what I'm talking about. Here on the next page, we see Maxx and Mr. Gone fighting on the trunk of this young man's car. Mr. Gone taunting Maxx, calling him Brer Lappin', telling him that he only wants Julie Winters and that she's the one pulling the strings. Maxx wants answers. He wants to know what's going on. He wants to know who this man that's attacking him is. Mr. Gone seems amused by the fact that Maxx doesn't remember anything and proceeds to pull out a gun from underneath his cloak as he states he's a student of the mystic arts, but not a very good student, or else he wouldn't have to keep using this gun. He then proceeds to punch through the rear glass of the young man's car. Once again, I stated before, the man said that it was on the hood of his car, but it's on the trunk, and pull a young woman from the back seat to take as a hostage, and then tells Maxx that if he doesn't back off, that this woman is going to be dead very shortly. Here on the next page, we see that Maxx is not concerned at all for the safety of the hostage, as he decides to just smash her head directly through the trunk of the car. This infuriates Mr. Gone, as he starts screaming that Maxx killed his hostage and decides to shoot Maxx through the upper thigh. Maxx then stops, looks down, and then realizes he's been shot and just says, "Ouchie." Mr. Gone decides that this is enough for the battle that's been taking place, hops into the station wagon with the grannies, and drives off. The young man then approaches Maxx and asks him if he wants to call an ambulance, and then we find out that the hostage that was taken was actually this young man's CPR dummy that he was using to teach a class at his high school. He then makes sure that Maxx actually knew that that was a dummy, which Maxx says, "Oh, yeah, sure," implying that he didn't know it was a dummy at all and was just smashing a woman's head through the trunk of a car. But their conversation is then interrupted as the grannies, who are in fact Dark Izzes in disguise, jump onto Max's back, lock onto his shoulders with their teeth. They're coming at him from all angles. Maxx is slicing at him with his claws. The young man then realizes that he is actually in danger and decides that it's in his best interest to probably leave the scene. As we can see here through his eyes, it just looks like there's a bunch of identical grannies just holding onto this huge purple guy with their teeth. This is a wild comic, folks. On the next page, we see Maxx trying to escape the Dark Izzes as he jumps into a trash dumpster. Unfortunately, the battle has taken its toll on him as we see him collapse in a heap. The Izzes still latched on. He feels his consciousness fading as he's lost too much blood, and he curls up inside the dumpster. Mr. Gone then proceeds to walk up to the dumpster as he apparently knows that Maxx had tried to escape to there, closes the lid, and locks two Dark Izzes on the lid of the dumpster as a way to prevent him from escaping, and then proceeds to hang boxes over their heads so that nobody sees a bunch of grannies hanging from their teeth on this side of this construction dumpster. Maxx then loses consciousness, but then awakens in the Australian outback, or what he claims is the Australian outback, as he proceeds to find the Jungle Queen, who is now changed and very dark and seems to be losing her mind, and is clutching a doll that she states is telling her things that she doesn't want to hear, and if the doll continues to do this, that she's going to brush its hair right out. We also see that Sam took the time to draw the borders of the panels in the outback as almost spears and wood with vines and feathers and whatnot. It looks really cool. It was a really nice touch to kind of emphasize the whole like tribal wild aspect of the other world. Back in our world, we are then teleported to the hideout of Mr. Gone as he is taking a bubble bath to clean up from the battle. His hideout is in the lower floors of the Bulldog Rubber Factory, which happens to be a costume shop, as he gets out of his bathtub and proceeds to start to shave, continuously cleaning up, speaking to Julie Winters, who is in the other room, telling her that he's killed the Maxx and that he now has her right where he wants her and that he can do whatever he wishes to her. Here on the next page, we see that Mr. Gone has in fact tied Julie up in a collar with a bunch of leather straps and forced her to wear this weird sexual maid costume. And she actually just begins to taunt him, saying that this is just him trying to live out some weird perverse fantasy and get back at every woman who's ever turned him down for a date. And he plans on trying to use her for some sort of sexual revenge, but she's not going to play into it, which he gets upset about and takes his anger out on this Dark Izz, which he smashes. and then proceeds to go to plan 2. Julie then proceeds to tell him that he's not going to intimidate her, that she's not afraid by his posturing. He, however, does not see that she has looked over her shoulder and found a tooth from one of the dark Izzes, and realizes that it's sharp enough to start cutting through the straps. Mr. Gone tells her that she will start to fear him. However, she says that she doubts it. He doesn't have a clue who she is. She's also thinking to herself that she's just trying to keep him busy. I really also like the fact that on this page, which would be difficult to follow normally, Sam has included this funny little hand pointing to from this panel here down to this panel here, kind of directing you in the order you're supposed to read them. That was a nice little touch. Mr. Gone then says he's been stalking her. He knows all about her, but she again continues to not give in to the things that he has said, and then even says that she's not even that great of a prize, that she's overweight and that her armpits are stubbly and that she has bad breath from eating the wrong foods, as she continues to work her hands behind her back, trying to cut the straps and get herself free. Julie then proceeds to tell Mr. Gone that he has a problem with women, which he openly admits to, and says that, they just try to tease men and that they walk around and, do their best to make men's lives terrible and blah, 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 and just kind of ranting and raving. And then starts to mock Julie for claiming to be a feminist when she dresses so provocatively, and that basically she's got a bad life and that she's made a lot of poor choices and that she's very, I guess, cookie cutter in her beliefs, but also very hypocritical. However, she says that this is ridiculous, that he's the one that broke into her apartment and kidnapped her, and that she's done nothing wrong, as he's the one who's clearly the villain in this scenario, and that he's just trying to project so that he can make himself feel like the good guy. Of course, during this entire exchange, Julie has been cutting away at all of the straps that were holding her down with the tooth from the dark Izz that she found, and has finally gotten to the last one as she basically dares Mr. Gone to come and do his worst. He then proceeds to ask her if that's actually what she wants, as he states that he has answers to all of the questions that she has, and also has the ability to tell her all the things that she's tried to forget, as he begins to start listing off some things that she's actively blocked from her memory. And this is where we see this cool little exchange from where it goes back and forth between our world and the savage outback world. And we see that it's actually happening in somewhat back and forth real time, where we see the Jungle Queen speaking again about how this doll is telling her things that she doesn't want to hear, as Mr. Gone goes into greater and greater detail about Julie's past that she's blocked out of her memory, and how the Jungle Queen is more aggressively brushing the hair of the doll, Mr. Gone continuing to speak, and then finally he gets close enough for Julie to strike, and she grabs him right as he's stating his last part of the sentence, and puts the Izz's tooth directly to his throat. Then on the next page, we see that the Jungle Queen has in fact brushed the doll's hair so hard that its head has popped all the way off, as we see it land on the ground. And then we see blood dripping down from the top of the panel, implying that Julie actually cut Mr. Gone's head off in our world, which is exactly what happened. She does kill him. We also see that the blood is dripping away to reveal back to the world of New York City, as Maxx awakens, quickly disposes of all the dark Izzes that were still latched onto him, killing them all, splatting them on the wall, but then also realizing that he wasn't able to do what he felt like he needed to do. He still has no idea where Julie's at, and that the Jungle Queen has gone insane, and that he wasn't able to protect either one of them, and that he's really got to get it together because he's just not achieving the goals that he wants to. And this is the last page of the story as we see the small preview box for next month. Here on the next page, we get the beginning of the letter section, which has its new name for the very first time, Maxx. And it is a really big letter section. We're going to go through it right here. We've got the first page, and I'm going to show you all of them simply because they also contain illustrations sent in by fans. We have a large illustration here of the Maxx, one down here of the Maxx interacting with some little guy who potentially has a knife. This one right here, which has obviously been drawn by either someone with very little artistic talent or a young child. On the next page, we get Maxx sitting here on a stump looking at some mushrooms. Another picture of the Maxx as he's just kind of crouched down, apparently ready for some battle. And then on this page, we also get two more pictures of the Maxx, but these are both in his Outback motif as we see the large headdress. And again, this was something I found out reading this letter section. I always thought that the Outback version of Maxx had a long flowing mane of hair. He does not. It's actually a headdress, as Sam Keith specifically explains to one of the people who wrote in for the letter section of this book. We then move to the final page of the letter section, final 2 pages, I should say, as it was 6 pages long this month. We get another kind of less detailed image, one down here that's just basically kind of a redrawing of the first cover of the Maxx. Here's one that's a little more detailed. I like this one. And down on the bottom, here's one of the Jungle Queen with a leopard and an advertisement for I Before E. I have like one issue of I Before E, and I'd like to try and maybe find some more before I start reviewing them, but I don't know. Those are low print run books. I don't know if I'll be able to find them. One of the things I did find interesting about this letter section as I read through it, not only the revelation about Max's headdress when he's in the Outback, but also a good point was brought up about, and it's funny because when they wrote the letter, they hadn't read this book yet, where, Julie is very much in the first issue. If you remember watching that, if you haven't seen my video on the first issue of the Maxx, please feel free to watch the Maxx #1. Julie is very much blaming rape victims in that first issue for being raped. And then when confronted by Mr. Gone, who is a legitimate actual rapist, she then taunts him and pushes back against the narrative that he's spewing, which is correct because he's actually quite wrong in his views and his quote-unquote justification for assaulting women. But I find it odd that she, has views that are not too far away from his own, in the fact that, when women, she believes, or at least she was saying in the first issue, that when women get raped, it's their own fault for not paying more attention or protecting themselves. It's a weird dichotomy. She's a very complex character and is very much somewhat hypocritical in the way that she views this narrative around the victims of sexual assault. It's a very good way to show that she's a flawed character. I really like what Sam did there in giving us this very convoluted view of this subject through Julie's eyes. It's a really deep type of writing to find in a comic book. Here on the next page, we get a 2-page vertical splash that I'm not even upset about because it's not part of the main book. It's just an advertisement for Union. If you'd like to know more about Union, check out my video on Union #1. It's an awesome book, at least in my opinion. On the next page, we get 2 advertisements, one for the Maxx trading cards from Topps, which I so badly want to find someday so that I can buy. And on the next page for Dooms 4. I've never read these, and I don't know if they're any good. But if I ever find some issues, because I'm pretty positive I don't have any, I'll probably pick them up just to see what it was about. On the last page of the book, we get an advertisement for something that I have been looking for for years and have never been able to find, and that is the Maxx ash can. Ash cans are little small, kind of like half-sized versions of a comic book. It's the same comic book as the Maxx #1. The difference being that all the pages on the interior are black and white, and the covers are a color with black ink. And there are multiple different colored covers of the Maxx ash cans. I've seen them online. I've just never come across one in person. And it wasn't just the Maxx. There were also a lot of other image books that did this. I have a few of the Pitt ash cans. I want to say I might have a Youngblood ash can or two. They're really cool little collector things. I mean, there's nothing you're going to get out of them other than just having some little extra cool piece of memorabilia from this time period, because it's literally the exact same story as it would have been in the regular newsstand or comic book retailer version. But man, do I ever want these so bad. That is like one of the big things that I want to find when it comes to the Maxx. And then on the reverse inside cover, we get the advertisement for Frank Miller writing Spawn #11. I have yet to do the video on Spawn #11 as I'm recording this, but when we get to it, I'm sure it's going to be really cool. And that was the Maxx #2. It does a great job, in my opinion, of picking up the story exactly where we left off, keeping you interested, really alluding to the fact that there's a lot of story that has happened to these characters that we are completely in the dark about, and that some of the characters themselves are completely in the dark about, as we see that Mr. Gone seems to have information about all of the characters in the book, but none of the rest of them remember it. And, you know, he's talking about stuff like spirit animals and the other world and where the Izzes came from and how the dark Izzes become meat eaters when they come into our world. It's so much going on, and you don't know exactly what's happening, but you never feel totally lost either, which is really a testament to how good of a writer Sam Keith is, because when you do a story like that, it's really easy to kind of lose the reader's interest, because if you leave them too in the dark, it gets to the point where you have no clue what's happening and you're just completely lost and you don't want to keep reading. So it's really, I commend him completely for doing it this way. But once again, these are just my opinions. Your opinions may vary. But if you enjoyed today's video, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. And thanks for stopping by. Have a great day.